Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you wherever and whenever you are joining us. Welcome to our latest edition of What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. I'm joined, as always, by the man, Stephen Komlo.
Hello.
And the not pictured here, but normally here is the boy, Stephen Veschi. He is on assignment this week at the Jersey Shore. He's trying to find where Dan Orlovsky vacations and go pour beer on his head for
Orlovsky.
Us. So he'll be back hopefully next week. But as always, I am your host, the coach Nick Veschi. If you're new to our program, we like to think of ourselves as the sports show for sports fans about sports. We like to focus on what happens inside the lines of competition rather than the outside noise, which often borders on, reality TV or TMZ like rhetoric. Now, before we get into our top catch for the evening, just a reminder to follow us on all of our social media. That's on X, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Threads, and Snapchat. I think I got them all. That's at WCME_sports. Our episodes drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And all of that information can be found on our website, WCMEsports.com. Now, without further ado, we get to our top catch this week, and we went with the AIG Women's Open, or the, ladies British Open, if you want to think of it that way, is the last golf major of the year for the men or the women.
Yep.
Right after this, the next major stuff comes to Tour Championships and Ryder Cup things. But a recap over the weekend, Yamashita went wire to wire to win the AIG Women's Open at Royal Porthcawl. Say that one 1,000 times fast.
Yeah.
In Wales. How many countries we got in this country? It's Yamashita's first ever LPGA Tour victory, and obviously makes it her first major victory as well. Yamashita held off a massive weekend surge by our girl Charlie Hull to finish at 11 under, which is 2 strokes better than Hull and Minami Katsu. Now, Katsu never really was in it, but, kind of
she finished this
birdied, finished still strong there. But Hull had a legit chance. At one point, I think there was a separation of a stroke between the two. Yamashita is the third Japanese player to win the Women's Open and the first to do so since Hanaku Shibuno in 2019. Yamashita, this is her first year on tour, right? So she's a rookie. She becomes the 20th different winner in 20 LPGA Tour events this year, which is kind of crazy. In fact, Yamashita earned her LPGA Tour card in December. So not even a year ago when she won the LPGA final qualifying tournament. Now, she had been a successful player on the Asian Tour, I believe, or the European Tour. I think it was the Asian Tour where she was like a double-digit winner. She's only 24, I believe, but she had great success over on that tour. Just got her LPGA Tour card. So this is her first win, her first major championship. She benefited a little bit from the playing conditions she got to play in her first and second round because, as often happens in the Open, whether the men's or the women's, those first 2 rounds where you get tee times flipped, right? One day you play in the morning, one day in your afternoon. You could get lucky and play in the best weather. Each of those times you could get unlucky and play in the worst. Now, that should not be taken as a slight to her because other people got to play in those favorable conditions, but no one posted 11 under in those 2 rounds.
Straight up.
The way she did. Now, she did struggle pretty mightily on Saturday. I think she didn't hit a single fairway on her back 9, something crazy like that. But on Sunday, she made clutch putt after clutch putt, and like I said, held off Charlie Hull, who was surging. I think Charlie Hull came.
She had 7 birdies on Saturday. I think for a round of 66 on Saturday, and then then, like Charlie Hull was still -3 to par on Sunday. So Charlie had a great weekend. It's just sometimes it's just not enough.
Yeah, I mean she left a decent bit on the bone in that final round. Like once she got to within 1, I think Yamashita was at -12. Hull got to, I believe she got to 11 under. Then just, she found a bunker off a tee shot and wound up bogeying the hole. And that kind of, took the wind out of her sails. And again, she wound up finishing at -9, like you said, -6 Saturday, -3 on Sunday. So an incredible charge, but she could have gotten to -5 on that final round. She just left a couple things out there, but Yamashita, give her a ton of credit. There were many times where she could have folded because pretty much everyone else, like no one else, was keeping up pace with her. Yeah, and she was making clutch par putt after clutch par putt. Even if she didn't play her best golf those last 2 rounds, she played clutch enough golf to come away with the victory. Now for Charlie, it's her 4th runner-up finish at a major in her career. She's closing in on that like territory where we where we used to talk about Phil Mickelson of, great golfer, household name, one of the best in the sport, but doesn't have that major win yet, has all these runner-ups. I believe Phil on the men's side, I think has the second most runner-ups in majors ever behind Jack Nicklaus, which shows just how good Jack Nicklaus is, that the fact that he won the most and came in second the most is remarkable. But yeah, only 4 for Charlie, obviously, compared to what Mickelson has. But, it starts to get into it becomes a story. It becomes a question, right? That's she's going to have to get asked, which that's the issue. It becomes like essentially a distraction, which does need to, because she played so well, right? She's going to be the crowd favorite because she's English. Having that pressure with it too, the crowd behind you. She showed up for home major. It was fun to watch, but ultimately she came up short, and Yamashita took home that victory.
Did something else that was really crazy about, well, there's something that's really crazy that happened, and then something that I was really, really happy to see was Lottie Woad followed up her LPGA debut win with a T8 -4 at this tournament, so that's exciting to see. But the crazy thing that happened, did you see the hole-in-one that Mimi Rhodes hit? She tees off on this par 3, ball lands, rolls, and then banks off of somebody else's ball and goes in. That was incredible to watch. I mean, that's just good entertainment, good, clean fun.
Dude, that's wild, because the other part that's wild about it is it's not like it banked off a ball that was like over here, like, when someone hits a rock and it bounces this way.
That person was
I forgot who hit that tee shot. Yeah, they dropped a dime like 2 inches from the hole.
Yeah.
And her shot banked right off of it. So that's pretty, that's good of 2 tee shots as you're ever going to see in a par 3.
It's a solid line.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's a fun tournament, and kind of like you said, that's all she wrote for the majors for golf this year, outside of like FedEx Cup and Ryder Cup. But it was a fun one. I mean, the LPGA season was really cool. It was a really good run this year, and the competition this year, like last year, it felt like we were like outside of like Solheim Cup and our girl Lauren Coughlin, who also finished T13 in this tournament.
Yes, I was great. Bring that up. Mott had a great final round under. I think she played during some of the tougher conditions, I believe.
Yeah.
During that final round, but they 2 under.
Crazy. So like last year, we were talking about Lauren Coughlin a lot. We were talking about Nelly Korda because she ripped off those 6 wins and 6 starts last year and was like the hottest thing in golf. But this year, it's someone different. And we talk about this a lot, kind of like we talk about it a lot with tennis, with women's tennis, is just the talent pool is so deep. Like there isn't that gap, like again, to relate it back to tennis or even golf, there's a huge gap between like your Scheffler, your Scotty Schefflers, your Rory McIlroys, and the field.
Don't you lump Rory in there with Scotty?
But I'm talking like your top talents, right? So like swing it back over to tennis.
Rory's now at this point. Scotty's here and Rory's down here with DeChambeau.
Swing it back over to swing it to tennis, and you talk about like you have your big 3 all the time in tennis, right? It used to be Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic. Now you got Carlos Alcaraz, Jannik Sinner. Yeah.
And those guys are just seem to be so much better than everyone else.
Yeah,
everyone's playing for third.
It's head and shoulders above the competition. But on the women's side, just like in tennis and golf, it seems like it's anyone's game any weekend. Yes. And I think that's what made it so fun. I saw a stat that this year, outside of her finishes, Nelly Korda is playing better golf this year than she did last year. Her scores to par have been better. Her scoring average has been better. And like pretty much all facets of her game have improved, even if it's just like by a decimal point or 2, have been better this year than they were last year. It's just that the results are different, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, because golf, that part almost doesn't matter, right, in golf, because it's all got to be relative, right? It's relative to everyone else. So are you doing better? Because, they always do say in golf, you don't play the person, you play the course, right? So when you think of it that way, you go back to a scoring average, things like that. But at the end of the day, too, you've got to score better than the other person. Yeah. And as you're pointing out, the other people are very good. I believe Nelly might lose her number 1 ranking in the world, something that would have been unfathomable a year ago. I believe Gino Tittikul of Thailand.
She's played very well this year.
Yes, she has. Is going to overtake her, or might overtake her this week after the
She already
Open. She already did, yeah, after the result from last weekend. So, yeah, the talent pool is there. There are a lot. Because, again, it used to feel like, sometimes in some of these individual sports that it was like, oh, there's a couple people that can win. And if someone else does outside a couple people, it's a huge upset. But no, like you said, in tennis, it's no longer that case. Nope, LPGA, it's definitely not that case. So you said 20 different winners in 20 events. Yeah. Every person out there's got a chance, which is cool. Right, that's kind of what you want. That means that field's deep. That means there's a lot of talent there. That everyone has a chance to win.
Something else
on any given
something else that's pretty fun.
day.
So, like, while I was looking up the LPGA rankings right now, there's another tab where you can click over to see who the money leaders are. This result put Yamashita in the top 3 earnings for the LPGA so far this year. So that's also very, very cool.
Yeah, I thought they talked about something where like the payout for this was like the closest to a men's payout at a major.
That's pretty neat.
They had something like that.
Well, that's also interesting because the Open didn't increase their purse this year on the men's side. So the Open Championship didn't increase their purse like all the other tournaments and majors did this year. The Open kept it the same. Yeah, for Yamashita, that's huge. She's played in 16 events, which is comparable to everybody else that's sitting top 5. Titikal 14, 19, Stark 14, and Minji Lee 15 events respectively. And Yamashita is right there at number 3, which is that's pretty cool. I mean, I love seeing that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's a prestigious event. It's a major, and again, where you're talking like the field is more competitive because there's more people that are capable of winning. Whereas, like, how many times have we kind of written off a championship Sunday on the PGA side because Scotty has 4 or 5 stroke lead on Saturday? You know what I mean? Like, it's more interesting, in my opinion, it's more interesting to watch women's golf. And I think I said this a lot last year, is because like it just feels like you never know what you're going to get, which means, like, for me, that means there's a greater chance that the last hole in the last group matters, right? And so that's exciting. But no, that's really cool. So it's a great way to put a bow on an LPGA like major season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, they have their tour championship. Theirs is played a little later than the men's is. But another thing I thought was interesting about the Women's Open, I believe they said that not every course they play that tournament at, because it rotates the same way that the men's does in different venues over in the UK. Not every course they play it is a link style course.
Really?
Whereas the men will only play on a link style course. Like, that's part of their thing. The women have played, and I think will play in the future, some courses that are different.
That's interesting.
So they're not always going to have that same style. They may get a course that is slightly different, which I thought was kind of was
women also play more events over there than the men do? Like, obviously, if you take DP World Tour out of it, it feels like the women have more
global events.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah,
they do.
They have more akin to like a live thing where it's like they're all over the place.
They have a whole Asian swing where they go over to and that's earlier in this year. That's already happened. And I forget the tournament that's over there, but they have a tournament over there that they consider like kind of like how the men consider the Players Championship the 5th major.
Yeah.
They have a tournament over there that's considered like the 6th, because the women have 5 majors. Yeah. The 6th major, like the extra major, the unofficial major, they have one over there. I forget what it's called.
But that also makes sense because there are a lot of Asian professional golfers. Like, I think this leaderboard for the women's British Open, 3 of your like top 5 players are all from Japan. And then AL Kim is from South Korea.
Yeah, and Titikul, as we said, she's from Thailand.
Yep.
Jutanagarn is also from Thailand. But I think I also saw that this is the 2nd year in a row that Japan has had 2 different players win a major.
That's awesome.
Because I think Ryo Takeda, you got to look it up. I believe Ryo Takeda won the Chevron earlier this year. Or was it Mao Saigo? I forget. But
Saigo won the Chevron.
Saigo won the Chevron. And then last year, they had 2 other players win 2 different majors. So they've had, out of the last 10 majors, a Japanese player has won 4 of them, which is an incredible percentage. I mean, 40% when you're talking about the whole world. And
yeah, it's huge.
And all that. So yeah, that Japanese golf is in a good place, and
yes,
this is another example of that. Of like, no one had Miyu Yamashita on their radar coming into this. And yet she won because you would have had so many other people like a Shibuno, a Takeda, a Saigo. You would have had all of them above her if you did like a power ranking of who has a chance to win this tournament. But yet Yamashita comes in and takes care of business, which was cool. Anything else before we move on?
No.
So it's going to take us to our 3 strikes this week. Komlo, would you like to start us with strike 1?
Yeah, so strike 1, I'm going to keep it with golf. Cameron Young wins the Wyndham Championship to get his first PGA tournament win. Super, super exciting for the guy. There are some people that would want to put an asterisk next to it because it is a depleted field, because a lot of people who have already qualified for the FedEx Cup playoffs choose to kind of sit these last 2 events out, the Wyndham being the last one before the St. Jude's start, which is the top 70. But I mean, it's a big, I think this is still a big deal because for me, I've always liked Cameron Young. So seeing him get his first win is super exciting. But 2, I also think that when we start getting into kind of like in baseball, right? When you start talking like the dog days of summer, when you start talking like the dog days of September, October, like getting hot at the right time matters. And I thought Cameron Young's play was pretty convincing. Getting a win now when he's been starved of one his entire PGA career, I think matters. It pushes him into the top 16 Americans for FedEx Cup points, which I think, like, given like the company that is around him in that leaderboard, at least gets him like a second look for a captain's pick for Ryder Cup. And I also think that having this momentum carrying into the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs is a big deal too. The first leg, which is in
Memphis.
Yes, it's in Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you. At TPC Southwind, kicks off Thursday, August 7th. So that'll be exciting to see. And then if he continues to do well there and not many people jump him, which I don't think they will, he'll be playing in Maryland actually for, what's that, the BMW? Yeah, the BMW Championship, which is the second leg of their playoffs, which Kevin and I are going to get tickets and go.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we'll have reporters in the field?
Yeah, I'll be there. I want to get some pictures because I believe BMW is when they don't make cuts because it's a 50-player field. So I don't believe there's no Friday cut, which means that you get to see. We're gonna go on Saturday, so I don't have to burn any more time off from work. But we're gonna go on Saturday and we're gonna go check. We're gonna go see everybody, and I'm super excited because I've never been to this course before. I've never seen it. And I think it'll be cool to kind of see like the PGA playoff environment. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'll make sure I get some pictures. But yeah.
Now the reason we should all remember that it kicks off in Memphis is because Memphis is the headquarters, I believe, of FedEx, who sponsors it, and that's why they play the tournament. They actually got to please the sponsors. But it also doesn't make sense to play in the middle of August in Memphis, Tennessee, an outdoor event. And this is why we should also remember it, because a couple years ago, Lucas Glover sweat through his entire pair of pants and was completely see-through from the waist down, basically, because it was so goddamn hot.
But that was in September, wasn't it?
No, it was this event. It was the first leg of the FedEx playoffs.
No, but it
always takes place.
I thought this was the first year, but I thought this was the first year that it was in August, because in the past, hadn't it always competed with like the start of football?
No, because you got to always get it done before the Ryder Cup, so they don't like move it up just because that. This is normally when it would be. It ends right before, right as like football starting is when it ends, and then they get like a couple weeks, and then the Ryder Cup will happen. But yeah, that's why we should always remember that they play a tournament in mid-August in Memphis, Tennessee.
He sweat right through those pants. Because he sweat through his entire pants. And the crazy thing is like he probably, like, the whole world was watching. The whole golf world was watching, and it's like I think we've all been there where it's like, oh man, I picked light colored pants on the wrong day to pick light colored pants. You know what I mean? That's
why I can't wear gray.
Yeah, gray.
Even on a 60-degree day, we're just done.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like any of those like Easter Sunday style like clothes.
I believe he won that tournament too.
I think he did. He did, because that's why everyone was watching him and like felt so bad for him, because he also like
guy's dying.
Yes, he's an older guy too, isn't he?
Yeah.
So it's like everyone's just watching this old man just dehydrate himself and sweat through his pants. He looked like Patty at my wedding.
Yeah, when we should be playing a tournament in Maine or Canada or something. Let's just go play this in Memphis.
Thanks a lot, FedEx.
And I think the final one is in outside of Atlanta. Oh gosh, what's this famous course? I forget what it's called. I'm sure everyone.
Do they play the same one every year?
Yeah, I believe so. Gosh, what is that course called? It's outside of Atlanta, I believe. It's very famous.
Give me 1 second, I'll find it.
Course, at least the last couple years they played there. But yeah, let's go play this thing in Georgia in end of August, early September.
That's tough. I do remember. I'll never forget the pants, dude. I'll never forget the pants.
No. You're right. It was so relatable.
Yeah, it's East Lake. That's where it is.
East Lake, yes. It's so relatable because we've all been there.
Are they still doing the if you're first in points, you get a 10-stroke lead thing? They got rid of that this year, right?
Just this is the first year they got rid of it.
Thank God.
So stupid.
It's the Scotty Scheffler effect. They said we can't be giving Scotty a 10-stroke lead. Yes. Yeah, it's over at that point.
No, it's also stupid. Because the idea, I get it, is to reward the person for finishing first up to that point. But you shouldn't, because, each tournament is its own thing. Each NASCAR race is its own thing, right? They don't do that they don't go, oh, well, we got to the last race because you finished here. We're going to give you 2-lap head start over this guy. No.
It reminds me a lot, and it's obviously not as hype, but it reminds me a lot of Champions League soccer, where you win the second leg but you still lose on aggregate. So it's man, fuck. But anyway, so to wrap up that strike real quick, so I had mentioned that this pushes Cameron Young up the FedEx Cup, the Ryder Cup standings leaderboard, pretty much, right? And we had said a couple weeks ago that a win makes anyone's consideration, right? So he shoots up 5 spots. He's sitting 15th overall. He jumps a guy we were watching. He jumps Goddard up, who sits at 20th. Daniel Berger, Lucas Glover, Wyndham Clark, Sam Burns. So he jumps all of them. He's nipping at Patrick Cantlay's heel, and then above him, you have Andrew Novak at 13, then Brian Harmon, Maverick McNeely, and captain, possible coach Keegan Bradley at 10. I mean, if I'm Captain Keegan, I'm looking at him. I'm looking at Cameron Young, because the other guys that are up there, right? You have Justin Thomas in 7th, who I don't think should be seriously considered.
But he will because
he's a vibes guy. Below him, so 7 you have Justin Thomas, 8 Colin Morikawa, 9 Ben Griffin, and then I've already listed 10 through 20.
No, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and we talked about this I think before, there's really no separation in the last 10 people. Mm-hmm. You really want Andrew Novak over Chris Goddard, or does that even matter? You know what I'm saying? You've got a lot of unproven guys who are relatively early in their careers who have never faced and been on the Ryder Cup stage like that. So Justin Thomas, has to be there, because you have to have.
We have 3 guys on the team that have never done it before. You have JJ Spawn, who automatically qualifies, Russell Henley, who automatically qualifies, and Harris English, who automatically qualifies.
Yeah. So you already have a ton of inexperience.
And again, this is my humble opinion. You're going to a course that I really don't think offers you an advantage as hosting country. I really don't think Bethpage Black gives the American side a leg up over the European side. I really don't.
Yeah, I mean, just the European guys have played it before.
Yes.
And it's not like it's
not a Marco Simone.
Yeah, where none of the American guys have played. Right. I mean, you could say that about every course, though, that gets picked in America, right? Mm-hmm. Because everyone plays to make tournaments here.
Yeah.
Right? Those 3 of the 4 majors that they're all playing are at any of these tournaments. So a guy like Justin Rose has literally played everywhere. You're not going to... The odds of surprising someone like him, oh, here's a course Rosie's never seen before, is so low, because it has to be a course that can hold the people and hold the event and host it. So it's going to be one of these major venues.
I have one more gripe about
what really grinds
about what really sticks in my craw about Ryder Cup is 2 guys that I work with, and one of which I play golf with pretty regularly. One the Ryder Cup raffle. And so when you win the raffle, you obviously don't win the tickets, you win the opportunity to buy the tickets first. And those tickets are insanely priced for an event where players aren't getting paid. He said he entered the raffle for 2 tickets, and then when you win the raffle, I guess you get to pick which days you buy the tickets for. He said they were going for $650 a ticket,
which is really interesting because our friends and sponsors, David and Bailey, went to the last Ryder Cup at Marco Simone in Italy, and I believe they said the tickets were like nothing.
Yes.
They were able to go to a practice round.
Mm-hmm.
And then they also, at least one day, they might have gone to 2 days, but I think it was one day. And they're like, they were like, that cost was so negligible compared to obviously the rest of the trip, going to Italy and all that stuff. But they were like, no, it wasn't expensive at all. That was very reasonable to go.
Part of me thinks that like this is probably like at a minimum like partially driven by the country club, because like we've talked before about like the toll that hosting an event, a PGA event, has on a country club, right? Because there's obviously like members and groundskeepers and people to consider. And like to me, like for a Ryder Cup event, which is supposed to like inspire like camaraderie and unity within your camp, within your nation, right? It's supposed to be like golf's version of, I guess it's akin to like a World Cup, right? Like it's supposed to be like a I believe that we can win type thing, right? Like stars and stripes, rock, flag, and eagle. But to have those ticket prices so incredibly high is like, it tells me like you don't give a shit about having a home course, home field advantage.
It's how much money can we make off? It's American capitalism, right?
But to put that into perspective, though, and obviously, like it's probably not fair to compare it to this, but it's the only other raffle for golf I've ever entered, and you probably already know where I'm going with this now, is the Masters, right? I enter into the raffle every year for a chance to buy tickets to go to the Masters. The Masters $150. So what the fuck is the disconnect here? That if I win the raffle to go to the Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black, you expect me to either go by myself for $650 a day, or it's so freaking ridiculous. Like this is supposed to be like a unity thing. This is supposed to be like, it's supposed to be for everyone. This is supposed to be for the people. The players don't get paid like outside of like their sponsorship deals. But that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. To make something cost prohibitive and essentially at that point you're making it exclusionary. I mean, here's stuff that's it's not 600, but if you go to SeatGeek, which is what the Ryder Cup redirects you to, I mean, you're
talk to me.
It's hard to tell what you're paying, like, because they have these like the Ryder Cup Plus package for like Fridays, like $1,200, but.
Dude, if I wanted like the tickets to go to the second round of the FedEx Cup, the BMW, it's $123 per ticket. And obviously, like again, almost an apples and oranges difference here. But this is a playoff event that's being held at a private club, and the minimum like general admission tickets $123 a ticket per day. If you want to go one leg up and have like access to like one of like the par 3 huts or whatever, it's like $215. But like it's just I can't believe like what are we doing? It blows my mind that like that's what we're like down to, right? That's my gripe. I'll hang up and listen. We can move on. But yeah, I wasn't too happy to see that. Like I don't think it should cost that much. I really don't. I mean,
like I said, this is Ryder Cup Plus, so like you're not really seeing any.
Includes access to the grounds of Bethpage Black and Ryder Cup Plus, inclusive food and non-alcoholic beverage program. $548 each. I'm looking at on Thursday. But like then,
but the tournament's played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so Thursday's a practice round.
Yeah, Friday. Oh my God, Friday! That same pass shoots up to $1,285. So now I'm double pissed.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
double pissed.
You're right. It's not. It's supposed to be something that
It's supposed to be for everyone.
is not exclusionary, but you made it exclusionary.
Yeah.
Right? It's now a thing that not everyone can go to, but the idea is it's supposed to be everyone can go to because it represents everyone.
This is for like nation's pride, right? This is for bragging rights for the next 2 years, and it like this. I don't like it.
But the tickets are gonna sell. I mean, that's the thing. It's like right? Isn't that capitalism? The market dictates what you can. Like, if people are willing to buy it for X price, and you can list it for X price, like it's
true. But like, and feel free to play devil's advocate with this. But if like, I think there's a difference between there's a difference between the crowd you're attracting, right? Like when I think Ryder Cup, I think of the people that like. So look at when we went to Solheim Cup, right? There were people there like doing the David Putty, right? Painting their faces, putting letters on their chest, tying flags around their neck. These ticket prices deter that crowd, in my opinion, because you don't see those types of people in the expensive seats at sporting events. You see them in the upper bowl.
Yeah, not you're right. Not the stereotype. People,
yeah, not the
right.
stereotype.
If you're willing to take your shirt off and paint the letter D on your chest for Devils, you're probably not shelling out $1,200, $1,300 for one day to wear no shirt outside and drink and yell. Like, it's probably not.
Because if I found $1,300 laying around, it doesn't include your parking pass, by the way.
I noticed that as well. $55 Jones Beach parking.
If I scrape together the $1,300 to go to this event, I'm not going to be able to afford to drink, because Lord knows what they're going to be charging for alcohol at Bethpage.
Well, didn't it say that that's included?
Non-alcoholic was included.
Well, that's
my point. But I did and that kind of, so to kind of end it on a better note, I did notice that something that's becoming a regular thing, stupid fucking moth. That's something that's becoming a regular thing was I did see a lot of headlines from different golf tournaments down the stretch that were doing like your ticket was essentially like an all-inclusive ticket where like concessions were free. So I did like that. I do like that aspect of it. But like I'm not applying it to this absolute price gouge. This is ridiculous. This is like charging more for milk, flour, and toilet paper in a snowstorm prices. This is awful. I don't like that at all.
Now, I wonder if you'll see it go down, though, as you get closer, if there's not as many that sell, because you got to, that it would be bad if there aren't as many people there. I mean, maybe it's also a strategy to deter Europeans from coming over. You could look at it that way, because I think the international pavilion, they had like a price for that was like double.
Yeah.
It was like $1,200 for... the Ryder Cup Plus was like international, was like $3,500.
Yeah.
So maybe they're looking at that and saying, this is how we'll get our advantage. We'll have enough people willing to pay $1,200. Well, they have enough people willing to pay $3,500. But then it turns into like the thing when like sports leagues go on strike with the union, like, oh, you have billionaires arguing with millionaires, and it's like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, exactly.
How about the regular person who, sure enough, HA on one cheek and then PPY right there in the other. That regular person.
Yeah. No, that sticks in my craw. But anyways, sorry, that was a long-winded first strike. Why don't you go ahead and ring him up, Nick?
All right. Well, that'd be strike.
Yeah.
Strike two. I'm gonna go with this one's for me. We'll get to the boys here later. We picked them from. I'm gonna go with the Yankees. My Yankees, who made waves at the trade deadline, made several additions that a lot of people liked. They picked up Ryan McMahon, left-handed hitter, great defender at third base, position of need, right? You get some depth guys like an Ahmed Rosario and Austin Slater, which in a Jose Caballero, guys that play like the type of guys you need to win that can do a lot of different things, right? And then they load up even more on their bullpen, which they had already addressed in the offseason when they got Devin Williams. They go and get former All-Star closers Camilo Doval from the Giants and David Bednar from the Pirates, right? And you think, okay, the Yankees have done all this great stuff. These are all good moves. If you're great in their trade deadline,
for sure,
this is good, right? And then they come out and proceed to lay an egg against the Marlins. Scott Stapp's Marlins.
Saw that.
Right? As the Marlins sweep the Yankees for the first time in franchise history in a 3-game series. The Marlins, I know interleague play, all that stuff. This is the first time we have the balanced schedule. Everyone plays everyone. All right, I don't care. That means that's still, the Marlins have existed for about 30 years, over 30 years. Still, you watch some of them for the first time. And what's worse is that the acquisitions that they got were key in allowing the Marlins to have this sweep. Yes. And I know, I understand, right? Small sample size. Baseball's all about patience and longer long-term trends. You look at these guys and what they've done in their careers, up to this point, right?
Sliding though.
But the issue is that you watched a team that didn't have Aaron Judge because he's been injured. He's slated to come back tonight, I believe, and only DH. But they didn't have him. Your first game, you put up 13 runs without him, which seems improbable, right? If you've tracked the Yankees the last few years, that they could ever score more than 5 runs without Aaron Judge out there.
Yes.
But they do it, or 12 runs, 12 runs, and you still lose the game because all these guys that you just spent prospect capital on implode in the almost the most embarrassing way possible. Again, to the Marlins. Yes, the Marlins have been playing great baseball, but it's the Marlins. They can't even get their own fans to come there. All of the people that they bring in to run front office stuff always resign because they're like, this place is a shithole.
Yeah.
Like Derek Jeter or Kim Ng, right, who were great at what they did. They're like, no, fuck this, I'm out, right? Yeah. You lose to that franchise. You get swept by them. Your shiny new toys completely implode. And again, I completely understand. They'll be like, well, jitters are coming over. It's hard, for them. But it's like, yes, I get it. But it also comes with the territory of being the Yankees. Like, this is just what happens when you're the Yankees. We've talked about it before. When you're Manchester United, when you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, when you're the Dallas Cowboys, when you're New York Yankees, that's what happens. You can't escape it. This is the reaction you get from fans. It's the pressure that you have. It's inescapable. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. And when you're those teams, you can't have these happen because they're magnified even more. Like these events happen where you blow that lead. And then the next day get embarrassed. Like you have Jazz getting doubled up, right, on a ridiculous pop-up. You score 12 runs that game, then you don't even score a run in the second game, right? It's bad, right? It looks embarrassing, especially because they haven't been playing well, even when Judge was there. You've watched the Blue Jays now have a stranglehold on that division, essentially, because the Yankees have floundered so bad. You're seeing all the things come to fruition that we were afraid of, like not enough support from the rest of the lineup, even though they've gotten some good contributions. Bellinger and Grisham have been fantastic. Surprisingly, both of them have been fantastic, right? They both have over 20 home runs already this year, right? This is Trent Grisham's best year of his career. I believe the last time the Yankees had 3 outfielders with 20 or more homers, because obviously Judge has almost 40 homers right now.
Yeah,
I believe it was 2004 with like Matsui, Bernie Williams, and Gary Sheffield. I think that was the last trio of Yankee outfielders, and before that, I think it was in 1961 with Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle, and Yogi Berra, believe it or not, was playing left field at that time in his career. But, so you're having that production, right? That has always been an issue, but you look at too many of these guys, like Austin Wells batting like 210. Volpe is still struggling at the plate, right? You're seeing these bad base running things from Jazz. You're watching this stuff happen, and you're watching bullpen guys implode, just straight up implode. Devin Williams' ERA now is well over 5, especially after last night when they played the Rangers and Williams gave up the tying run to Josh Peterson in the 9th, and then Boone walks Wyatt Langford to get to Josh Young in the 10th, and Josh Young promptly hits a walk-off 3-run homer right in their face. Right? Those things can't happen if you win championships. They can't happen as the Yankees because you have all of this talent. Like Williams, Duvall, and Bednar are all extremely experienced closers who are former All-Stars who have all before saved 30 to 40 games in a season. Like that's really rare to get guys like that. So you got to perform. Now, one thing I will say out of those acquisitions, I wish I would have gotten a lefty. And I think that's part of what hurts. And I don't think there was really a lefty in the market to get that would have helped. Tyler Rogers, one of the Rogers brothers, he was dealt, I think, from Cincinnati to what was used to get someone, I think, to Pittsburgh or someone to get Key Brian Hayes. So there weren't really guys out there to get, which is why you saw Bednar, Duvall, and they got Jake Bird, who they just who he gave up the walk-off homer. He's looked horrendous since he came over from the Rockies. They just optioned him to AAA. So you had all those righties come in, which, yes, again, great. They have that experience. If they're closers, that means you would think they can get righties and lefties out. But still, I think, until you have a guy that's going to hammer down that closer role, it's hard to do bullpen by committee. It really is. It helps a lot when guys have roles. It really, like, if I know every eighth inning I'm coming in and the eighth inning is mine, right? That's my inning, barring some crazy circumstance where I might have to come in earlier in the game. That helps, right? Right now, these guys, and Luke Weaver's another guy in the bullpen who's closed games before, those 4 guys don't know how they're going to get deployed each day. In a lot of ways, and what they'll say is that's a good problem to have, right? That means we have a lot of talent. We have a lot of skill. A lot of guys that can do different things. We can, mix and match. But in other ways, that puts added stress on guys, especially when you think about where these guys are coming from, right? Pittsburgh, the Giants, Colorado. They haven't played with pressure before, ever, right? And now you're going into the most pressure you ever play. I believe Ryan McMahon, who has played really well for them, by the way, he was saying that he is more tired than he's ever been at the end of games because it's the first time he's ever played in games that are meaningful, and he has so much adrenaline because he's playing in a game that matters, that he's never done that before in his career, that he's exhausted after games, which is amazing. But that shows, again, like, that's a non-quantifiable trait or thing to consider.
Yeah.
And when you bring in a bunch of different guys, you have to consider, can this guy handle that? And, we're seeing, Devin Williams came from Milwaukee. That's another small market team that, right? You were seeing that, and we've seen it before, that some guys have trouble with it. Some guys thrive on it. And again, hopefully this is just a blip. Hopefully these guys, because again, of their track record, how good they are, that they can get back on track of what they're doing. But again, there's been plenty of guys who showed up in New York. Randy Johnson, one of the greatest left-handed pitchers, greatest pitchers ever, couldn't handle New York. Sonny Gray, who's been fantastic everywhere but the Yankees, was freaking horrendous there, right? So it's hard when you are the Yankees and you bring guys in because goal is always to win, right? You can never sell. You always have to buy all this stuff, right? I understand that, understand the expectations, all of those things. But at some point, this shit can't keep happening. And this is part of why over the offseason, when we talked about after the year ended last year, even though the Yankees lost in the World Series, should Aaron Boone get fired? And I was adamant that yes, he should, because because of that, the expectations.
Didn't we find out that he has his contract's either expired or there's an option at the end of this season?
I thought it expired at the end of last year, and they chose to essentially re-sign him.
Okay,
as I think is what happened, because they could have just not signed him essentially, and he'd become essentially a free agent. But they chose to re-sign him. But this stuff, and it prompted.
Oh yeah, he's A-Rod an extension through 27.
Yeah, A-Rod sounded off on this during the Fox pregame show to the Speedway Classic, which was very cool. Wish it got played on Saturday night, but that kind of dampened it. But that was a little cooler than I thought it would be, the Speedway Classic. But they talked about it. They sounded off on it. A-Rod was like, there's no accountability on this team. Jeter said they're making mistakes that are just straight up unacceptable. They're bad baseball, and it really is, right? And again, it gets amplified and magnified when you are the Yankees. But those two guys know that just as well, if not more than anyone else. And if there's anyone qualified to speak on those things, it's those two guys who went through the gauntlet. They led. Yes. They're the last guys to lead them to a championship. Before we say you should have shot A-Rod, in that 2009 series against the Phillies, A-Rod was fantastic. So let's not forget about that he led and helped lead them to their last championship. So if anyone can speak to these things, it is A-Rod and Jeter. Mm-hmm. And when you have guys like that who are sitting there going, this is not acceptable, this is not the Yankee way, this is not Yankees baseball, that's an issue. I don't care how much talent is on the field. And I think that is ultimately what was so disheartening to watch and keep watching them. Again, they gave up that walk-off winner, blew that game to the Rangers yesterday. It's like, those aren't acceptable things if you're the Yankees. That can't happen. But it doesn't matter if you just got there. It doesn't matter if you've never played there before. If you're coming from Pittsburgh or wherever, the Oakland, Sacramento, Vegas A's, the Yankee way is something. It means something. And while it is scoffed at and ridiculed by many people from other fan bases as, ridiculous, whatever it is, that's still a big part of why they were able to be successful, is because that group of people, right, they call it the core four. It's right with Pettit, Jeter, Rivera, Posada. You got to throw Bernie Williams in there, Paul O'Neill's, Tino. They were the Yankee way. They did the things that needed to be done. They did those little things. It's really rare to find someone on the Yankees get a 2-out hit with the runner in scoring position. Yes, you can say, the metric, that's so hard to do that. It's very low. But, I mean, I could probably count on one hand the times this year I've watched a Yankees player get a base hit with a man in scoring position and there's 2 outs. And those are the things that win you games. Like, it's really hard, but you got to come through with those things. As opposed to we're just going to sit there and try to hit home runs like everyone. And, we're going to outpitch these people. We can't. Our starters aren't going deep enough. Rodon doesn't go deep enough. Fried only went 5 innings yesterday, right? They got to go deeper into games, which they don't have the depth there after the Garrett Cole injury and the fact that they did not sign Corbin Burns like I thought they should have, or someone else like of that ilk, of that talent, of that ability to go deep into games, right? And yes, there people will say, well, no one goes deep into games anymore. It doesn't matter. To be successful, you got to have guys that can do that. And I don't see that on the pitching staff. And I see a lot of guys in the bullpen who, are not playing well enough to win baseball games. And guys not hitting well enough to win baseball games. Again, that is very against what the Yankees built for the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be hard to find someone who says it better than that. I mean, as a fan of a different team in the AL East,
sucks.
It's obviously, like, for me, like, once Mullins and O'Hearn got traded, baseball season's over for me. We're hard sellers.
It should have been over several months ago.
We're organ donors officially.
They didn't even sell enough. They should have gotten rid of more people.
We've talked about, you've talked about it in depth a lot. They cultivate talent, but they don't develop and harvest that talent. They make it so other people don't have to draft that talent, and then they donate it pretty much. But even though I'm not watching baseball as closely this year as I was last year when the Orioles were better, that when you look up just in Google, and if you're listening, you can do it now. When you look up MLB standings, the first thing that comes up on Google is the AL East. Always. And it's like over the last couple of weeks, you've seen the Blue Jays close the gap, and then you also see the Yankees making it easier for them. And now, through their last 10, the Yankees are 4-6, 5.5 games back from the Blue Jays, and they're 2.5 games back from Boston. Which at the beginning of the season, like, it felt like this division, as it, like, year after year after year after year, it always is the Yankees to lose, right? This division, the AL East is the Yankees division to lose. You, like, right now, like, it has an air about it that doesn't say, we're just in a cold spell. Like, this feels like something's wrong.
That they're not going
terribly,
to win this division, that they're going to be happy to get in with a wild card.
Yeah, this feels like there's something wrong. There's something missing. There's some sort of puzzle that no one in that front office or dugout can solve right now, and it's a problem. It's a problem for them, because you're right. Like, people outside of the Yankees fan base, and, like, I grew up in a house that was filled with Yankees fans. I hung out with your family who are all Yankees fans, right? The Yankees fandom is a separate religion in some people's houses, right? It's right up there with whatever like major religion that your family, like, celebrates, and then you have the Yankees right there.
The crucifix is Don Mattingly.
Yes, exactly. Like, this just doesn't seem right. It's not okay. It's dismal. It's really, really bad. And like, it's the kind of thing that, like, I think you probably had again, because you grew up in a house where, like, New York Yankees was your household's second religion. This, like, reminds me, like, of when we would, like, spy on your dad from the landing above your living room and just see him just teeing off on the TV screen,
right? He was just yelling at every player, every play, every swing. Like he's just cussing
God damn
at
it,
somebody.
Knobloch, what the
Yes,
fuck are you doing?
exactly. But like right now, it's like it's not even like you can pinpoint. Like it's just whatever player that is getting cussed at is just whatever player is on the TV right now. Like there's just like systemic performance on the Yankee side, and I understand like like Belichick in New England always called it the Patriot way. So like the Yankee way has been a thing for as long as we've been alive, and it's something that we've heard our whole lives, right? Like the Yankee way, right? New York baseball, Yankee baseball. And like right now, it's like now more than ever this season, it just doesn't feel like there is a Yankee way. You're right, Nick. They're like base hits with 2 outs, or like getting a knock with runners in scoring position, having the discipline to keep the bat on your shoulder and really like see the pitch that's coming. Like it feels like there's just like something's
putting
wrong.
the ball in play,
yes.
or like putting the ball in play with a guy on third in less than 2 outs, right,
yes.
to get him in. Those little things. And that game the other night against the Rangers, when they walked off, that felt, watching that game, it was like, this is going to happen. He's going to pull a changeup. It's going to sit right in the plate, and he's going to give up a home run to a guy who's hitting a $126 in Jock Peterson. And you just knew it. You felt it just watching it. It was like, this is going to happen. You're basically wishing that it doesn't happen, as opposed to, expecting that they do what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And that's, again, that is the difference in being on the Yankees and being on different teams, is that that's a different type of expectation. You're playing with, some guys, to them it's fear.
Playing divorced guys.
And that's where you have to be a different type of person to relish that pressure and make that a privilege, and as opposed to a burden. And that's hard. It's human nature. This isn't played on a video game, right? And I've said this before about the Yankees, that so often you could look at that team that they constructed the last few years, even going back to almost 10 years ago, and be like, wow, in a video game, this looks pretty good.
Yes.
But I don't know if you remember, a few years back, they literally had a lineup consisting of 9 right-handed hitters that all swung the same way and had the same approach. And I was like, you can't win. I don't care if in the video game Gary Sanchez's overall rating would be this. You're going to lose if that's the way you play. And so giving them credit, they made the adjustment, getting like the Grishams, the Bellingers, McMahons, right? A Caballero, like, who does different things, right?
Kevin Youkilis type.
Yeah, guys who do like different little things.
Yes.
Right. LeMahieu was a good guy like that until his injuries have kind of like ruined his career at this point, right? They did a better job of getting that, but it's still, I mean, the bullpen now is that. Yes, the guys are all right. Guys can go about different things. They throw different things, right? Not every guy there, like Bednar throws a splitter and a curveball, whereas Duvall throws a cutter and like a sinker and all these different things, right? But it's still right-handed pitchers. It's still, guys who are unproven in the postseason, guys who are unproven in pressure situations, right? And guys who are now being put into different situations that they're not accustomed to. And yes, that's the nature of the beast of the business, but it's also, setting expectation and understanding how are we going to go about this? What, like you said, what's the best way to solve this puzzle? Because in reality, each game is a puzzle to solve. How do we solve the puzzle of this game?
How do you figure out if someone is built for a stage like New York sports?
Yes.
Like the best example I could think of like the last clear-cut example of someone going to play their sport in New York, and it was almost like the whole world was like, man, he ain't built for that, was Kevin Durant, right? Because when he went to the Nets, it was everyone was like, really, the dude who runs his own burner Twitter account, who gasses himself up and fights all the haters, as someone that isn't Kevin Durant is going to go and succeed in one of the most highly criticized markets in sports. Like, come on, man. But like it's a little different for baseball, but it's one of those things where it's like, how do you measure if someone is built to succeed in the limelight, like center stage? How do you know that until you do?
Part of that is having the culture in place, and I think that's the issue, is the culture isn't in place, right? Jeter and all those guys, Rivera, Posada, Bernie, Pettit established a culture when they came through. This is how it goes. And people fell in line when they got acquired, when they got Clemens, right? You're talking about Roger Clemens, who accomplished more in his career, even, aided or not by other things, than all those guys combined, really, when you look at it, right? At the end of the day.
Yes.
He came in, he's falling in line. A-Rod coming in fell in line, right? There was a way to do it, and you don't see that. And I think that was what the point that A-Rod and Jeter were making is he says a lack of accountability, and it got interpreted as like no punishment for this, which in some ways is right. You watch some of these gaffes, you're like, there should be a punishment, but the answer to that will always be, we handle that internally. I think it's more about the culture, right? The other players holding everyone accountable from day one. And you can't start those things at the end of July, beginning of August. Those are things that start in the offseason before. Right?
At a minimum before the All-Star break.
Yeah, I mean, and that again goes back to why I thought they should have moved on from Boone, regardless of how good his record was, regardless of the fact that he got into the World Series. It felt like what we're seeing here was going to happen again.
Yes.
Right. And so they'll, at this point, I don't think they can win the division unless something drastic happens. So they're going to sit there and look at a wild card. And again, the way the thing's set up, you could get it's all about matchups. You get the right matchup, you never know. They're still the Yankees. They still, again, have so much talent on their roster.
Yes.
But if this is the brand of baseball they're playing, you're not going to make it past the first round of the playoffs. Just not. So third strike here just for the boy.
Ring them up.
Yep. Ring them up. I'm going to go with the Rockies, right? Speaking of a team that's struggling mightily, they just got to their 30th win of the year. But I did want to highlight a positive for them, right? Woo. They overcame giving up nine runs in the top of the first inning. And at one point, they were also down 16-10 in the 8th inning. They came back against the Pirates to walk off Pittsburgh thanks to a 5-run bottom of the 9th, capped off by a walk-off 2-run homer by Brenton Doyle from
UVA.
No, Shepherd, remember?
That's right, it is Shepherd. I'm just so used to saying UVA when you point.
For a 17-16 victory Friday night, the Rockies are the first team since 2006 to allow 9 runs in the first inning and win the game.
Crazy.
You talk about, right, we said the worst team in baseball by a lot, right?
A lot.
You got a lot of guys. They sold guys off like McMahon to the Yankees, right? But when you watched those guys play, those guys give a shit. And yes, everyone gives a shit, but that game meant a lot. It could have been so easy for every single guy on that team to just give up. We give up 9 runs in the first inning. We've won 30 games this year. Who cares? Right? And that didn't happen. And so for those guys in that locker room on that team to care so much, to keep battling back after those deficits and to win the game
in 9 innings, by the way, 9 innings,
right? To do all that, and if you watched every action, those guys acted like they just won the World Series. They were the true joy, true exuberation.
How can you not be romantic about baseball?
Jubilation is probably a better word.
Sure.
Exuberance, true jubilation, true exuberance. Excuse me.
Sure.
In their celebration, it was awesome. Like you would have thought that this team just clinched like a playoff spot, and you could say, well, that's because they're not going to win any games, but whatever. That mattered to them. That shit mattered, and you saw it on the faces of every player there. That because you could easily say that even if they walked off and won, like, oh, whatever, we won. Like, we'll celebrate, but it was like pure. That the celebration, the ecstasy, the reaction was pure, joyful, and it was what you want to see from professionals, what you want to see from role models. And again, you wouldn't have known you were watching a team that has a chance to finish with the worst record in the history of the sport.
No,
and that was the most refreshing part of that, not the insane comeback that it was, or that our boy Brenton Doyle hit the walk-off homer, but the fact that, at that time, you would have never known that this team has 30 wins.
I think something else that's cool. So, like, obviously I didn't watch it. I mean, maybe that's probably not a good thing to say, obviously, but so it's a couple cool things about that is that it happened in the span of 9 innings. That's awesome. But the other cool thing is that the Rockies score 17 home runs with only 4 home runs.
17 runs with 4 homers, yeah.
That's fucking awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, I love seeing guys hit bombs and launch nukes and hit the goddamn bull. You know, he gets a free steak. I like
announce my presence with authority.
Just seeing all like Tovar, for example. He went 4 for 6, no home runs, 2 RBIs. That's awesome, right? I there's something special about seeing scores like this and knowing it's not all coming off the back of home runs, right? You're seeing some contact hits. Guys just get the ball and play and move runners over and advanced runners. I think that makes it a little more special to put up that many runs in that fashion.
Oh yeah, because it means you're putting together more and more quality at bats. Because you know when it's all relied on the long ball, theoretically, right? A pitcher could walk 2 guys, send a meatball down the middle, and there's your 3-run homer from one. You watched one swing.
Yep.
And that was it. It was the only action there because
you get guys now. This says we got guys that are working the count, that are like understanding the matchup, seeing what the pitcher's throwing,
putting good swings on, on the ball,
taking good cuts consistently through 9 innings. That's super, super special. I love that. But yeah, I think that's really, really cool.
Because again, it would have been so easy for those guys to be like, I don't care. We're down 9-0. We haven't even gotten the hit yet. And we're down 9-0. It could have been the easiest thing in the world for them to just be like, I don't care. But that's not what they did. And that speaks volumes really to every human in that locker room, in that organization, that wasn't the reaction they had. And now, you say that, well, they've got blown out yesterday or whatever as well, like 14-1, right?
Yeah.
So, they're just not a good team. But the fact that that they're going to keep fighting and battling, it means something, at least in my mind, for the sport of baseball and the people who are employed and work for these organizations.
100%.
100%. Do you want the bonus strike or?
Yeah. You know what? Let's hear it.
All right. So I had one stat for this bonus strike I thought was kind of cool. So it involves the Mariners, which is an actual team who made great moves at the deadline, who are playing really well, and who have odds on now the big dumper Cal Raleigh, the front runner for American League MVP. This has to do with Randy Arozarena and Julio Rodriguez. So Randy Arozarena became the 10th player in MLB history to record 5 consecutive 2020 seasons when he stole second against the A's on July 20th. Then, on August 3rd, Julio Rodriguez hit his 20th homer of the year to become the first player ever to start his career with 4 straight 2020 seasons. I thought that was wild to have that. And, right, you talk about consistency, and those are 2 guys that, sometimes fly under the radar. Part of the reason they fly under the radar is because if you look at the seasons, right, that's consistent, that's pretty good. But they're really streaky hitters in terms of the, marathon of the year. So you would see those guys go on like hot streaks where they hit like 600 with like 4 homers in like a couple game span, and then like not get another hit for like a whole week, right? So they're really streaky, but the fact that you still have that skill to put that up that many consecutive seasons, right? 5 in a row for Randy, 4 in a row to start a career for Julio. That's pretty amazing. That's stuff, again, that you don't really see all the time. And
for sure,
especially with a Mariners team where those guys aren't necessarily the talk, right? It's Cal Raleigh, the big dumper. It's the deadline acquisitions they got with Eugenio Suarez and Josh Naylor. It's their pitching staff with like Brian Wu and George Kirby and that a lot of other guys. Andres Munoz at the back end. Like, there's a lot of other guys who are getting more pub than these 2, even though Julio is was the face of that team. But to have, like, when we talk about winning, these are 2 pieces amongst a whole slew of guys who are doing great things all at once, right? That's how you win. And yes, if you look at record-wise, the Mariners aren't any better than the Yankees, but it feels like they're playing better baseball because they've got more of a belief of what they're doing. Now it's going to take us to our favorites segment, brought to you as always by One Legacy Title and Escrow in Jacksonville, Florida. Follow them on Instagram at One Legacy Florida and visit them at onelegacyflorida.com to see how they can help you with your next house closing. One Legacy Title and Escrow, because your legacy matters. And this week we went with our favorite things to eat or drink at a sporting event. So it doesn't have to be a baseball game, any sporting event, because for the most part the concessions are the same.
Yeah.
some exceptions, but favorite things to eat and drink at a game.
So I'll start us off. So you're right. We didn't specifically say baseball game. So there were a couple things that I considered when making this list. I pictured like things that are going to be readily available across most sporting events. And then, you know as well as I do in Virginia, in the DMV area, and shit, I guess for you down there in Va Beach, where we've talked about the absolute price gouge that happens at your minor league games down there. I think about bang for my buck. So honorable mention, and this goes against everything I just said. Honorable mention, I went with a transfusion. Give me a good transfusion, because in the last couple of years, I feel like we've done a lot of golf stuff. I talked earlier. I'm gonna be going to the golf of the BMW Championship up in Maryland in a couple weeks. Solheim Cup recently. We went to that live event. That was a lot of fun. A transfusion hits, dog. It's refreshing. It's good. I get some good bang for my buck. It loosens me up a little bit, takes the edge off of all the parking woes and all that. So I went honorable mention transfusion. Number 5. This is becoming more widely available at a lot of sporting events that I've gone to recently, and I'm here for it because I think this has some really, really high drinkability. I went with a mango cart. Mango Cart by Golden Road Brewing. It is a very flavorful light beer, and a lot of sporting events now, especially like Caps, Wizards, they sell them in tall boys. Bang for your buck. I mean, obviously you're getting gouged because you're up in DC. Give me a Mango Cart by Golden Road Brewing. Just number 4, I'm gonna go with my personal favorite. I'm gonna go with a barbecue sandwich, or if you're at an Orioles game, any shredded meat sandwich. Give me any shredded or shaved meat sandwich, but I do prefer a good barbecue. You get the nice tangy barbecue, good shredded pork, some nice cold coleslaw on there. Give me a barbecue sandwich. Give it to me on a King's Hawaiian roll or anything, or a brioche roll maybe. Delicious. Number 3, sporting events. A lot of times there's going to be a lot of moving around. You're going to be hustling and bustling, possibly breaking a sweat. And I want something that's going to, again, refresh me. Give me a margarita. Give me a margarita in the 2-hole. Nick, you can vouch, maybe not specifically for a margarita, but you can vouch for just the refreshingness of a cold tequila drink. I think back to Stevie's bachelor party in Asheville. What were we all slugging after sweating our nuts off playing basketball? Tequila sodas.
Yeah.
Give me a nice
lime.
Yeah.
I prefer to do bottomless margarita brunch before the game to save, and then see what happens after that, because those have always turned out very, very productive.
Heck yeah, productive is the word we went with there.
Yeah.
Give me a nice cold margarita. 2, I'm good. 2 and 1, I think, are just classics anywhere. 2, give me a hot dog. Give me a hot dog, baby. I don't care what kind of condiments you put on it. I don't care how you dress it. I don't care if you're going Chicago dog. I don't care if you're going just a plain raw dog. Give me a hot dog. I love
a raw dog.
Love a good hot dog. There's a reason why so many sporting events will do dollar dog night, not just so you have something cheap to throw at a crappy performance on the field of play. Don't do that. You do whatever you like. Give me a good dog. And then number 1, I think this is king. I think it reigns supreme. Give me a Miller Lite. Give me a Miller Lite. You know what you're getting. It's old, reliable. It's there when you need it the most. It's a jack of all trades. It's there for you when you need it. Give me the Miller Lite in the 1 spot. I think it's unbeaten.
I like that.
I'll hang up and listen.
Good list. My honorable mention, I went with a sausage and peppers. And now that one is because I like you, I was thinking things that are readily available everywhere. And that's honorable mention because you really can't get one anywhere. But if you're going to an event somewhere on the Northeast,
yeah,
right, or at least somewhere north, there's going to be a sausage and peppers somewhere in your stadium to get. And that's, it's different from the hot dog. It is, right?
Yes.
It's completely different. So you can sometimes get some of the best sausage and peppers you're ever going to have at a ball game, believe it or not. Number 5, I went with lemonade. Nice, cool lemonade. When you're out there on a hot day, because a lot of times some of the, you want to go when the weather's nice.
And you don't
sometimes
like
we convince ourselves that the weather's nice just because it's not raining or that you're not freezing your ass off. So oftentimes that means you're hot. So a nice lemonade is good. And what's also good about lemonade is when you sneak in some airplane bottles.
There it is. I was waiting for the Lynchburg lemonade kick.
Yeah, you could put, it's versatile. You could put vodka, you could put whiskey into that. May not do rum. Rum might have a little weird taste to it. But you could do different things with that, right? If you did a half and half, got like a
Arnie Palmy alert.
You could probably put some rum.
Alert.
This has the vodka right here, buddy, baby, right here. You could do that, right? So, but also you just want a nice, refreshing, non-alcoholic beverage, lemonade. Way to go. Number 4, soft pretzel. Give me a nice soft pretzel. And that translates to all sporting events, like you said, not just baseball games. You can get those. Nice hockey game, I think, was the last time I had a soft pretzel at a sporting event. Very clutch, very easy to eat, too, because that's my big thing. It's got to be easy to eat, easy to drink.
Are you a mustard or a cheese guy for pretzels?
Depends, right? Because sometimes the cheese isn't good.
Yeah.
It's like weird.
That's usually my
So then
a good whole grain mustard.
My first dip would be to the mustard.
Yep.
All right. So because again, that depends. Right? Sometimes the mustard, I'm not a big fan of that coarse ground with the big chunks in it.
Yeah.
Of the mustard.
Whole grain mustard, baby.
But you get that a lot with the big pretzel. And it just depends, because sometimes whoever made that mustard, it's fantastic. Other times it feels like it's lacking. But my first dip with the pretzel will always go into the mustard. I would try that first. Next, number 3, sunflower seeds. And that is, a little more geared towards baseball because you're outside, right? It's different if I'm there at your feet. Yeah, I'm not going to spit seeds on the ground in a hockey game.
No, it's disrespectful.
Because you're inside, right? Even though it shouldn't matter because it's still
stadium seating.
Ostensibly the same thing, right? But in an outdoor event, football or baseball game, sunflower seeds, you can bring those in. Normally they let you easily sneak those in. But that's always a nice thing because, again, it's quick, it's easy, and I could, you pop them in your mouth, you're not missing any action really, right? I'm not going down to grab this. I'm not sitting there making sure I'm like not spilling my nachos on myself, right?
Yes.
Sunflower seeds, clutch, in my opinion. Number 2, just you said a hot dog. Hot dog, because again, it's not just the classic thing at a baseball game. Yes, a baseball game, I'm going to get a hot dog, right? Is synonymous.
Kind of have to.
But any other event, like if I was at a football game, I'd probably be like, just give me a hot dog, right? Because it's the easiest thing to eat. Right, like you said, bang for your buck. It's going to be the cheapest thing you can get. It's the easiest thing you can get because you don't have to put anything on it. I would, if I'm putting stuff on, I want some onions and relish. Right, I would love a nice Chicago dog with all the fixins on it. Right, but you can just have it. Like I said, raw dog it. Who doesn't like raw dog in it? You know, hot dog is the simplest, easiest thing to consume food wise at a game. And number 1 is beer. Just beer.
Period.
Any beer.
That's
I don't care. You highlighted Miller Lite, but I thought about it and I was like, I'm not gonna discriminate in terms of the beer because if I'm in an Orioles game, I'm gonna have Natty Bohs the whole time, right? If you're going to Monster Jam, you're having Budweisers. I'm sorry. You're going to a NASCAR race, Bud Heavies and Miller Lights flowing like crazy. Maybe
NASCAR race is whatever you want to bring in.
Well, yeah. Probably would opt for a Mick Ultra, to be honest. If I was at a golf event, I wanted a beer, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sit there and say it has to be X beer, but just beer in general. And, I'm not a big beer drinker. I do love beer. Who doesn't love beer? But I don't drink a lot of beer when I have a drink or so. Normally a cocktail or a canned cocktail or a cider or something. Normally that's anything but beer. But unless the pricing is so outrageous, if I'm going there and I'm sitting there and it's either a White Claw or a Mick Ultra, I'm taking the Mick Ultra. I don't care. Carbs wise is going to set me back, but I really don't care. The beer is the number 1 thing to consume at a sporting event.
Yeah, I mean, it's
bar none.
It's undefeated. Especially nowadays where it's like the canned cocktails, the Alco sodas, whatever, are like just popping up left, right, and center. I mean, all these brands that we grew up with are throwing their hat into the ring, right? Like Arizona has canned cocktails now. Sunny D has canned cocktails. Mountain Dew has canned cocktails. Beer is just it's there for you. You know what you're getting out of it, right? If anyone's been watching like the new season of King of the Hill on Hulu, it's like Hank Hill
in his return. He's retired. He's looking to fill his time. He starts brewing beer in his garage. He enters into like a brewer's tournament, and he's like, everyone's like, "What story does your beer tell?" And he's like, "Beer can't talk." And he calls his beer like the Alley Boys beer. It's there for you and the boys. Everyone knows what they're going to get out of it. I agree with you, Nick. Yeah, I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. Yes, I picked Miller Lite, but in a bind, it's Miller Lite's there. I trust it. It's never gotten me where it's never not gotten me where I needed to go.
Yep. Long neck, ice cold beer never broke my heart.
No, it did not.
Just gotta say. Anything else, Komlo, before we move on to our final?
No.
Wrap this up.
Let's wrap it.
That's going to take us to our final segment, which is what to look for. Brought to you as always by VB Cookie Co. Looking for the perfect way to stand out at the next event you are hosting? Well, custom cookies are a timeless way to have everyone still buzzing even after they leave. Look no further for your custom cookie needs than VB Cookie Co. Follow them on Instagram at VB Cookie Co. That's VBCOOKIECO. And message them to order yours today. Whether it is a bridal shower, birthday, engagement, or baby shower, their team will work with you to make all your cookie dreams come true. VB Cookie Co. for the sweetest moments. Komlo, give the people something to watch for this week.
Something to watch for. Again, I'm going right back to the well. Just because I'm looking forward to going to this event in 2 weeks. I'm going with the FedEx Cup St. Jude's, the first leg of the FedEx Cup playoffs, the St. Jude's Championship that we talked about being held at TPC Southwind. Great field of golfers. These are literally the best golfers in the PGA Tour get to play in it. And, a lot of the big household names, your Scotty Schefflers, your Jordan Spieths, your Rory McIlroys have taken the last 2 weeks off. They're going to be fresh. They're going to be ready to go. I'm looking forward to it. And even more so in 2 weeks when I'll be our designated reporter in the field. But that's really what I'm looking for. Like I said, the Orioles suck. Organ donors, so baseball season's over for me. Football, I feel like, is in that rampant speculation mode where we're having holdouts and trade demands and
who's getting suspended.
Yeah, football's
ex-DUI.
Yeah, this is like the deep breath.
Who's going to tear their ACL in the third preseason game?
Yeah, this is the deep breath before the plunge of football. And frankly, don't get me wrong, I love football as much as anyone else. I'm excited to just have baseball and golf going on right now. So I'm most looking forward to the St. Jude's Championship.
I like it. I got a couple things. First, the Cincinnati Open starts and kicks off this weekend. And we're in the beginnings of hardcourt season for the tennis calendar, right? Wimbledon wrapped up grass court season. Now we're in the hardcourt season leading up to the U.S. Open in September. The Cincinnati Open is one of those big-time events like we've kind of talked about before where the men and women are both there, and almost everyone is there. Like, this is a huge field on both sides. It's ostensibly the biggest tune-up before you get to the U.S. Open. That'll start, again, I believe, this weekend. And because of the size of the field, probably going to run a week and a half, 2 weeks. Pretty extensive tournament there. So that'll be something to look for in Cincinnati. And then this is the last regular season weekend for the Premier Lacrosse League, the PLL. So after this weekend, the playoffs will be set. As it stands now, I believe there's only 2 teams clinched. It's our New York Atlas, our boy Michael Rexroad and company, and the Denver Outlaws, those 2 teams played last weekend, the 2 best teams. And that was a hell of a game, right? An incredible game between those. That looked like the 2 best teams when you watched it, right? A one-goal game came down to the wire at the end. Last regular season games this weekend will get the playoffs set. I believe 3 teams from each side, the East and the West, make the playoffs, so 6 teams in total. So we'll see what those other teams are, and everyone's kind of, again, still jockeying for position unless you are the Atlas or the Outlaws. Anything else, Komlo, before we move on?
No, I don't think so.
And wrap it up.
Yeah.
All right, so that's going to do it for us here on What Caught My Eye, or WCME Sports. Make sure to follow us on all of our social media. That's on X, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, TikTok, Snapchat, and Threads at WCME_sports. Our episodes drop every Wednesday at noon on Spotify, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. And all that information can be found on our website, WCMEsports.com. For the man, Stephen Komlo, I am your host, the coach, Nick Veschi, reminding you to be decent to each other. Have a good one, and we will see you next time. Take care, Guatemala.